Welcome back to data analysis in Excel. We have looked at basic formulas, we have looked at how to calculate percentages. Now we're going to a very interesting part of Excel, which is very fundamental. Understanding cell referencing, how to reference a cell. And we'll look at concepts of locking cells and relative and absolute references. Please, if you don't understand this video, try to watch it again and again, as it can prove to be very, very effective later in the long run. Okay, so let's start with the notes. We have there that reference cells can either be relative or absolute or mixed. So cells are locked for copying purposes. We'll look at the example of that going forward. You can just read the notes later though. Let's just go into the example. We've done this earlier in the class, but let's just do it again. We have quantity here. We have the unit price here. I want to calculate the revenue. So I can say equal to, pick this quantity, multiply it by this unit price, control enter. That puts it into the cell and gives you the bracket. And I can drag down. Right? So if I come here and I press Alt equals, put in the sum formula, control enter, I can copy this formula and paste it here. Okay. Let's say I want to correct the formatting. I want a decimal point and 2 decimal places. I can say control 1 to open format cells. I go to number, 2 decimal places, use start separator, and I press OK, and that's fine. So, but that's not what we want to do. What we want to look at is the concept of referencing. If I press F2, that puts me in edit mode. I'm going to press F2, or I can double click anyone, puts me into edit mode. And I can see that what I'm saying here is take these 2 cells to the left, multiply it by 1 cell to the left. If I press enter and I press F2 again, as you can see, as I'm going down, the reference is going down as well. So this is called a relative reference, right? So it's important for us to know that for every reference, if I come and say equals this cell, for example, this formula F25, it has 2 components. Number 1 is F, which is the column component. So when I want to look at the column component, I'm looking at F. 25 is the row component. F25 means column F, row 25. It's very, very important to understand that, because when you want to lock a cell, you can either lock just the column, or you can lock the row, or you can lock both the column and the row. We're going to look at an example of that right now. So this is an absolute reference. In this case, we have different unit prices. I'm multiplying each unit price with the quantity. Now in this case, what's happening here is that you have various quantities, but you have just one unit price. So I want to take this single unit price and multiply by all these quantities. Now let's do what we did before. If I come here and I say equals 61 and then multiply it by the unit price, right? If I press Ctrl Enter and I click and drag, now I can see what's happening here. If I select here and I press F2, it's taking this and multiplying by this. That's fine. But once I press Enter and then F2, we can see that as I'm going down, the reference here is also going down, which is not what I want. I want the reference to be fixed on this. If I press Enter, F2, Enter, F2, Enter, F2, Enter, F2, I have the same issue. So what I can do is I can go back into the formula. Let's delete this. Equals this times this value. But the problem is that I want to lock this cell. So to lock this cell, I can do that manually. I can put a $ before the 25. This $ before 25 implies that I am locking row 25. So if I copy this formula down, this row will not move. Now if I put a $ behind the F, it means I am locking column F. So $F, $25 means lock column F and lock row 25. So if I copy this formula down, it's still going to be picking this row. If I copy it to the right, it will still be picking this column because I've locked those values. Now I can press F4. If I press F4, it cycles through, right? As long as my cursor is on that cell reference. If I press F4, this is called an absolute reference. I'm locking both the column and the row, right? If I press F4 again, now I'm locking just the row. You can see I'm locking just the 25, right? If I press F4 one more time, now I'm locking just column F. And we're going to see why that is important. But for now, we can just F4. That goes back to the relative reference, and I can press F4 again to fully lock it. So now I can Control Enter. Now when I click and drag, if I come down to this last cell, you can see that it's still picking this value because I've told Excel that it has to lock this cell. So that's how you lock, and this is an example of an absolute reference. So here I can just select these two cells, alt equals, and that puts in my total quantity and total revenue. Let's look at an example of when you want to have mixed referencing, right? So in this case, you have quantities for different income brackets. You have high income earners, you have average income earners, and you have low income earners. And you have their quantities that they bought month on month from January to June. Now you also have the unit prices, and you are charging different people based on the unit prices that they have, right? So high income earners, you're charging them 200. Average income earners, charging them 150. Then low income earners, charging them 120. So the question now is, how do you write one single formula that you can copy down and copy across? So first of all, let's see how we can use this absolute reference. If I was going to use my normal relative reference, I'm going to say the high income revenue is going to be equal to high income quantity times high income unit price. This is fine. I press Control Enter. So for high income earners in January, they gave us a revenue of 11,800. But if I copy this down, this is giving us wrong answers, because if I come here and press F2, I can see that this cell reference here that is talking about the unit prices is coming down as I'm going down, and I do not want that. I do not want that. So because of that, I have to freeze that column, right? Let's assume I just press F4 once. Now this is an absolute reference, meaning I'm locking both column E and row 37, right? So if I click and drag, this is fine. If I come here and double click, it's picking the quantity in June for high income, and it's picking the price of high income, which is fine. However, if I select this and I drag across, these numbers look good, but they are all wrong, because anytime you do anything that has to do with um, referencing, locking cells, using an absolute reference or a mixed reference, always go to the other diagonal and double click. And sure enough, I can see that though I'm taking low income quantity, I'm actually multiplying it with high income price, which is wrong. I want to take low income quantities and multiply them with low income price. So how do we do this? Well, very simple. Once I select the first diagonal of this cell, as I'm putting in the formulas, I have to be asking myself, do I want to copy across and do I want to copy down? And if I copy down or I copy across, what do I want to happen? Right? Let's do this now. Equals high income. I'm going to take the high income quantity. Question: if I copy this formula down, do I want this reference here to come down? Yes, I do. If I copy this formula across, do I want this reference to also follow me across? Yes, I do. I want to move from high income to average income to low income for quantity. So that's fine. So that means I know that this reference here has to be a relative reference, fully relative. So I can say multiplied by the price. I have to ask myself that same question. Now, if I copy this formula down, do I want this cell to come down and come down and come down? No, I don't. Because I don't want that cell to come down, I know that I have to freeze the row 37. I'm freezing the row, meaning it cannot move from 37 to 38 to 39. I just want just 37. Now, if I copy this formula to the right, do I want this cell reference to move? Yes, I do. I want it to move from high income to average income, then to low income. So this means I need to freeze just the row, but leave the column relative, which means I have to freeze the number and make sure that the letter is relative. So I press F4 once. This freezes both the number, both the column and the row. That's not what I want. I press F4 again, and now I can see E$37 tells me that column E is relative. This E can change to F, can change to G, but row 37 is fixed. Meaning if I copy it down, 37 is not going to become 38, it's not going to become 39, it's going to stay on this row. So this is the formula I need. I can press Control and Enter. And I can drag this down and drag the same formula across. If I come to the end there, I double click to verify, and sure enough, it's picking the right quantity for low income in June, and also picking the right unit price for low income earners. So now I can just select this whole thing and alt equals, and that puts in the right formulas. Let's see some more examples on cell referencing. Please, it's very important that you understand this concept, because you will use it again and again and again, right? Let's look at another example of mixed referencing. Here you have quantity and you have the prices, right? And you want to calculate the revenues. So I'm going to do the same question I asked before. I'm going to ask again. If I say equals and I take this quantity here, if I drag this down, I want this to come down, which is fine, meaning that the row reference has to be relative. But if I drag this formula across, I don't want this reference to follow me. I want it to stay on column B. So that means I have to freeze column B. So I press F4. This freezes both. That's not what I want. F4. This is freezing the row. That's not what I want. Then F4 one more time. And that freezes the column. So column B is frozen now. I can then multiply with the price. And I ask myself the exact same question. If I copy this formula down, do I want this to go down? No, I don't. So that means row 53 has to be locked. If I copy it across, do I want this reference to move across? Yes, I do. So that means the column C has to be relative. So I press F4 and F4 one more time. So this is a mixed reference here, freezing the row, and a mixed reference here, freezing, sorry, this is freezing the column rather, and this is freezing the row. And a quick tip, once you know that you want to freeze the column, you have to press F4 3 times. So for instance, if I was going to do this very fast, I can say equals quantity. I want to freeze the column, so I press F4, F4, and then F4 again 3 times to freeze the column, column B. Then multiplied by prices. Now I want to freeze the row. I know that it's the row I want to freeze, so I just press F4 twice, F4, F4, and I can just do Control Enter, drag this down, drag this across, come to the edge to verify, double click, and I can see I'm picking the right quantity and the right price. So I can select the totals, alt equal to, and I put in the totals. Let's do one more example. Here you have three different kinds of references. You have the mixed, and then an absolute. Let's see. What's happening here is that you have quantities, right? For the month on month, these are the quantities, and you have just one unit price. So everybody is being multiplied by this same unit price, right? However, for this unit price, you are giving discounts based on whether the person is in high income or average income or low income. So this is relative, this is going to be mixed, this is going to be mixed, whereas this is a universal value. So let's first calculate what the discount price should be. The discount price, remember when we were doing discount in the other formula, we said discounting, we're going to take the value of X and multiply it by 1 minus the discount percentage. We discussed this. If you are going to add a premium, it will be 1 plus the premium percentage. So what do I do here? To calculate the discount price, notice that I'm using the same price for everybody. This 150 is common to everybody, both high income, and for all the months. So I'm going to take this price. If I drag this price down, I don't want it to come down. If I drag it to the right, I don't want the price to move to the across. I want it to be fixed on this cell. So I'm going to make it an absolute reference. I'm just going to press F4 once, and I'm done with the price. Then times, I'm going to discount it. However, I'm not using just one discount. I'm using 3 different discounts based on whether the person is an high income customer or an average income customer or a low income customer. So I'm going to take this fixed price and multiply it by 1 minus. For high income, this is the discount, right? However, when I copy this formula down, I don't want this to come down. If I copy it to the right, I want this to move across. That means I'm just freezing the row. Once I'm freezing the row, I can press F4 twice, F4 and then F4. Now I'm freezing row 69 because I want to copy this across, but I don't want to copy it down. And if I just close this and I press Ctrl Enter, this tells me that even though my unit price is 150, I'm actually charging high income earners 120. If I drag this across, I can see that I'm charging low income earners the higher price. Well, it doesn't sound fair, but such is life. For the example, now watch this. If I drag this down, you will notice that the same price will be repeated all across because I've frozen the row perfectly, and I've also frozen this unit price perfectly. Let me escape, Control Z, Control Z. So now I have the price, the discounted price. I can then take the discounted price and multiply it by the quantity to get the actual revenue. However, I'm going to ask myself the same question. If I copy this formula down, do I want this reference to come down? Yes, I do. But if I copy this formula across, do I want this reference to come across? No, I don't. I want it to be locked on column B. So that's 3 F4s, F41, F42, F43. and that locks column B. So once I have this value, I can close this, control enter. Oh, sorry, I don't need this. I actually did not need that last what's it called? I didn't need that last bracket, but anyway, Excel found that out and solved it for me. So I can drag this down. The same formula, I can drag it across. And if I come down here, I double click, it's picking the right quantity, it's picking the right unit price, it's picking the right discount. Of course, I can select my row here, Alt equals, and put in my sums. So please and please go through this video again. You might not get it immediately at first. Try to watch it again and try to attempt these two questions. All right, try to attempt them. Here, what we are saying is, want to calculate the percentage of total sales for each sales rep. You have the sales rep here. You have to find the total for the sales rep and then calculate as a percentage of this total. Here, what we're saying is take the percentage total for each sales rep in each individual month. So you are taking the value of Dio and you are comparing it with the total sales for January. The same with Paul, the same with Moses, and you are doing that for each person across the month. So please let's try that, and I'll see you in the next video.